When a person begins the journey towards success, the world often tells them that talent is the most important tool, or perhaps intelligence or maybe charm. But what very few will tell you, and what even fewer truly understand, is that your first and most essential companion on that journey is emotional discipline. You cannot reach the heights of your potential if you are constantly swayed by every change in your emotional weather. Success in its most enduring form demands steadiness, the kind of steadiness that allows you to move forward. When doubt clouds your mind, when the opinions of others shout louder than your own voice, and when setbacks hit you so hard that you question whether the dream is even worth pursuing. Napoleon Hill emphasized again and again that thoughts are things. But more than that, he showed us that the control of thought, directed, purposeful, emotionally stable thought, is the key to shaping your reality. If your thoughts are powerful but erratic, they become a double-edged sword. They can create just as quickly as they can destroy. The mind must be trained to serve you, not to sabotage you. Think of every successful person you've studied or admired. Were they free of emotion? No, but they were never enslaved by it. They didn't allow temporary feelings to distort their long-term vision. They built the habit of observing their emotions without reacting impulsively to them. And that's a turning point where average effort becomes greatness. What most people do when faced with adversity is they react. They get angry, or discouraged, or impatient, and then they make decisions from that emotional place. But when you lead with emotion instead of intention, you're building your life on unstable ground. You can't construct a future when the foundation is shaking every time you feel uncertain. That's where emotional discipline comes in, not as denial, but as mastery. Discipline means feeling frustration, but continuing anyway. It means hearing criticism, but staying focused on your path. It means facing fear, but walking forward as if you weren't afraid. Not because you're pretending bold, but because you're choosing to act from commitment rather than from impulse. You see, your emotional state isn't meant to be your compass. It's only your weather report. And like any weather report, it can change within minutes. But your direction, your purpose should not. When Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose, he wasn't merely talking about having a goal. He was talking about anchoring yourself so deeply in that goal that no external storm and no internal turbulence could throw you off course. This is why success must begin with self-mastery. Because if you cannot rule over your mind, then your mind will rule over you, and it will not always rule in your favor. Fear, doubt, envy, anger. These will rise like tides in every person. But the one who succeeds is the one who builds a dam of decision, not a raft of reaction. Every time you resist the urge to react emotionally, you strengthen your power. You reinforce your ability to choose. And every choice that comes from discipline becomes a brick in the foundation of your success. That is how empires, mental, financial, and personal, are built, not in bursts of inspiration, but in repeated acts of controlled focus. So let me leave you with this. The greatest achievement is not to conquer the world, but to conquer the self. Because once you've done that, the world can no longer shake you. And when you are unshakable, success is no longer a matter of chance, it becomes a matter of time. Let's talk about something most people never consider seriously on their journey to greatness: how much energy they waste trying to control things they have no power over. It's astonishing, really. Day after day, people expend their precious time and mental energy responding to events, people, and opinions that do absolutely nothing to move them closer to their purpose. They get caught up in arguments, held back by past regrets, and overwhelmed by future uncertainties. And in all this chaos, they forget a basic, timeless truth: power begins the moment you stop reacting. Start choosing what deserves your attention. Napoleon Hill said, "You have absolute control over but one thing, and that is your thoughts." When you internalize that idea, not just intellectually, but emotionally, you begin to see where your real leverage lies. The world will always be chaotic. People will always have opinions. Circumstances will rise and fall. But your ability to discipline your mind and direct it toward your purpose, that is where your power lives. That is the lever that moves everything. What makes a person truly powerful is not their ability to dominate the external world, but their ability to govern their internal state. The successful person doesn't pretend that pain doesn't exist or that problems aren't real. They simply refuse to let those problems dictate how they will think, behave, and act. They reserve their emotional energy for what they can change, and they let go of everything else. This is not indifference, it's clarity, it's emotional maturity, it's strength of character. You start acting as if nothing affects you, not because you're numb or blind to the world, but because you've chosen to be the master of your own state of mind. You're no longer swayed by every shift in the wind. You have planted yourself so deeply in your purpose that your peace is no longer dependent on outside validation. The person who reacts to everything becomes a slave to everything, but the one who remains composed in the face of criticism, rejection, or failure, that person commands their environment rather than being commanded by it. And that kind of control, that's rare, that's magnetic, that's power. The truth is, you can't stop people from misunderstanding you. You can't stop the economy from changing or eliminate every obstacle in your path, but you can decide what you focus on. You can choose how to respond. You can shift your perspective even when you can't shift the situation. And that choice, that sacred space between stimulus and response, is where transformation begins. Most people never access this power because they've trained themselves to believe that external forces are responsible for how they feel. If someone is rude to them, they feel offended. If something doesn't go their way, they become discouraged. But none of that is automatic. Every feeling you allow is a decision, either conscious or unconscious. The moment you become conscious of that truth, you gain leverage. You realize that you don't have to attend every emotional fire that ignites around you. This is what Hill meant when he spoke of self-determination. You don't just wish for success, you decide it. You don't just hope to stay calm, you train yourself to remain centered, even when the ground beneath you shifts. And when you do that consistently, you begin to move through life with a different kind of force. People notice it, opportunities respond to it, the universe rewards it. So here's the real challenge. Are you going to continue giving your peace away to things you cannot control? Or are you ready to reclaim it by becoming deliberate in your thoughts, selective with your reactions, and unwavering in your purpose? Because once you stop wasting energy on what you can't change, you suddenly have the power to change everything that matters. Most people think that strength is something loud, something forceful, assertive, or physically dominant. But true strength, the kind that determines success, is quiet, it's internal, and it begins with emotional discipline. If you want to rise in life, if you want to become unshakable, dependable, truly effective, then you must first learn to master the one battlefield that matters more than any other: your emotions. You see, most people are governed by how they feel. If they wake up in a good mood, they're productive. If someone offends them, their whole day collapses. They let circumstances dictate their inner state. They react before they think. They speak before they understand. And in doing so, they surrender their power to forces outside themselves. They become prisoners of every passing feeling. Napoleon Hill warned us about this trap. He wrote that emotional control is one of the cornerstones of personal achievement. Why? Because the person who cannot control his emotions is at the mercy of anyone who can manipulate them. Whether it's anger, fear, jealousy, or even excitement, if you cannot regulate what you feel and how you express it, then you are not in control of your life. Someone else is. The idea isn't to suppress your emotions. That's unhealthy and dishonest. The idea is to become aware of them, to observe them, to understand them, and to respond rather than react. When someone insults you, your instinct might be to strike back, but if you pause, reflect, and ask, what outcome do I want here? You change the direction of that moment. You take control of your own narrative. You act out of intention, not impulse. This is especially crucial when you're pursuing your dream. Success doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort. It shows up after hardship, rejection, stress, and disappointment. If you're emotionally fragile, every setback will feel like a death sentence. But if you've trained yourself to stay calm in chaos, to think while others panic, to hold your vision even while everything around you is crumbling, that's when you become unstoppable. Think of it like a thermostat versus a thermometer. A thermometer simply reacts to the temperature it goes up when it's hot and down when it's cold, But a thermostat sets the temperature, it regulates the environment around it. That's what emotional discipline does. IT allows you to walk into a room, into a challenge, into a crisis, and instead of being controlled by the energy around you, you set the tone. And here's something deeper. Emotional discipline isn't just about success, it's about dignity. It's about deciding that no one and nothing will ever have the right to control the way you carry yourself, that you will not allow pettiness to make you small, that you will not let fear dictate your future, that you will not give your inner peace to people who haven't earned the right to influence your mind. This level of control doesn't come overnight. It comes through practice, reflection, and repeated failure. You'll slip up, you'll lose your temper, you'll feel discouraged. But each time you return to awareness, each time you choose discipline over chaos, you strengthen the muscle that most people never even bother to build. And so I ask you, what would your life look like if your emotions served you instead of sabotaging you? What if your calm was so strong it became a source of power, not just for you, but for everyone around you? Because in the end, the person who controls their emotions doesn't just win, they lead. And leadership, in its purest form, begins with mastery over self. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to reality as it happens to them. They wait for the world to treat them fairly, for circumstances to become ideal, for people to behave the way they wish. And when that doesn't happen, and it rarely does, they feel powerless, bitter, or stuck. But here's the truth. The most powerful individuals in history, those who achieved the extraordinary, all shared one key belief. They acted as if they were already the person they wanted to become. They didn't wait for proof. They embodied it first mentally, then emotionally, then behaviorally. This idea isn't about faking it. It's about aligning yourself with a higher version of who you could be, even before the world sees it. When you act as if nothing affects you, not because you're indifferent, but because you've trained yourself to remain composed, you begin to control how the world responds to you. You are no longer the victim of chaos. You become the calm in the storm. Napoleon Hill called this auto-suggestion. It is the conscious practice of influencing your subconscious mind through the repeated assertion of belief. When you tell yourself over and over again, I am calm, I am focused, I am in control, you are not lying to yourself, you are reprogramming the deepest layers of your mind. 2. Reflect the kind of person you must become to achieve greatness. And in time, that belief begins to shape your posture, your speech, your energy, your reality. Think of it this way. If you wait until you feel confident to take action, you'll never act. Confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. And it grows every time you choose to behave with integrity, courage, and clarity, even when you feel insecure. So when you adopt the mindset of acting as if, you are not deceiving yourself, you are leading yourself. You are saying to your own nervous system, we are not ruled by emotion. We are ruled by vision, and that vision is non-negotiable. Psychologically, this kind of thinking creates a shift from passive identity to active identity. Instead of being someone who reacts to the world, you become someone who shapes it. You begin to walk differently. You speak with purpose. You stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. Why? Because when you act as if, the world starts to treat you as if it were true. Philosophically, it speaks to something deeper. The power of belief is a creative force. Every religion, every spiritual tradition, every philosophical system at its core teaches that what we hold in our minds becomes the seed of what manifests in our lives. But modern minds forget this. We want results first, belief later. But that's not how reality works. You must believe with such conviction that your behavior aligns before the proof arrives. That's not delusion, that's discipline. And understand this. Acting as if nothing affects you does not mean you don't feel. It means you've chosen to operate on a higher plane. It means that while others flinch, you stand. While others complain, you create. While others react, you respond. You are not above pain, but you are beyond panic. That's power. So ask yourself right now if you were already the person you long to become. If you had the discipline, the peace, the focus, the resilience, how would you walk into your next conversation, your next obstacle, your next opportunity? And why not start walking that way now? Because the person you're becoming is waiting, not tomorrow, not when life gets easier, Now and every action you take today writes the script of who you'll be tomorrow. They, the author, don't wait for the world to catch up, lead it. If there's one trait that separates those who rise from those who remain stagnant, it is emotional independence. That is the ability to regulate your internal world, regardless of the external noise. Most people, whether they realize it or not, live in emotional servitude. They are constantly reacting to criticism, to praise, to disappointment, to approval. Their emotional life is a mirror, always reflecting what others say or do. And in that state, real power becomes impossible. Because if your peace depends on other people behaving correctly, you've already lost control of your life. Napoleon Hill didn't just preach the importance of mastering your thoughts. He urged mastery of your emotional climate. Because what good is positive thinking? If you lose your composure every time something doesn't go your way, success, in its most complete form, is not just about achievement, it is about the quality of mind and spirit you bring to each challenge. Learning to detach from unnecessary emotional entanglements is not about apathy. It's about clarity. It's about making the conscious decision to stop feeding the parts of you that are addicted to drama, to validation, to being right. Every time you respond to a petty insult or get consumed by someone's negative opinion of you, you're trading your mental real estate for cheap currency. That currency may buy you a momentary feeling of self-righteousness, but it robs you of long-term control. Emotional independence allows you to walk through chaos with a still mind. And that still mind is where intuition speaks. It's where wisdom lives without it. Every decision becomes reactive. With it, every decision becomes intentional. And that's the real test. Not whether life goes your way, but whether you can stay centered when it doesn't. Psychologically, this independence is rooted in self-trust. If you trust your process, your values, your long-range vision, then temporary storms don't rattle you the same way. It's like sailing a ship through fog. You may not see the horizon, but if you trust your compass, you don't need to. People without that inner compass drift, they lash out, they panic. But the man or woman who has cultivated inner independence walks differently, thinks differently, acts differently. Philosophically, this idea asks us to stop outsourcing our identity. You are not what they think. You are not what they say. You are not the highs or the lows. You are the constant, the one who decides. And that's the part most people forget. They forget that. You can choose not to be affected. You can acknowledge emotion without obeying it. You can feel frustration and still act with dignity. You can feel fear and still move forward. This isn't about suppression. It's about stewardship. You are the steward of your emotions. They are powerful tools, but they are not meant to drive the vehicle. When fear drives, it crashes. When anger drives, it burns bridges. But when you drive with emotion in its proper place, you move forward with purpose and control. And here's the deeper truth. The more emotionally independent you become, the more powerful you are in relationships, in leadership, in life. Because people feel it. They sense the strength of someone who doesn't flinch at rejection, who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't need applause to know they're on the right path. So the question is, can you train yourself to stay calm in the storm? Can you sit with discomfort without reacting? Can you keep your eyes on the mountain while others are obsessed with the pebbles? Because that's where freedom lives, not in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of inner stability. Cultivate that and you become unshakable. Own your emotions or they will own you.